All right, what's up, guys? So it's Will back again, like I always do. That's my little intro words there. So I try to go with that when I can. So we got an interesting show tonight. So first off, I want to apologize for not streaming on Sunday. Usually I always stream on Sunday morning, but I didn't this time because I have so much going on. I'm actually a little under the weather. I don't know if you can hear that. My voice is a little bit scruffy because I'm a little bit under the weather. I'm a little bit sick, and I have so much going on right now. I mean, my classes started back up with teaching, with being a student myself, so much going on. So if you guys have anything like that, or anything else you want to discuss about your own lives in the chat, let me know and we can discuss it all together. But other than that, we have some interesting things to discuss tonight. So we have Godfather 2. I watched the second Godfather. I think I talked about the first one. I talked about the first one a while back. They're all three on Netflix. Haven't gotten to the third one yet because I heard the third one isn't very good. But I did watch the second one and I really enjoyed it. And we're going to get to that. I watched also Dewey Cox Walk Hard. If you guys have seen that movie from the 2000s sometime, that's a really funny movie. If you have not seen Dewey Cox or Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story, whatever it's called, that's on Netflix as well. Go see that as well. That's another really funny film with John C. Reilly and Jenna Fisher and Tim Meadows. There's a lot of really good actors in it that are really funny in their roles. We'll get into that. A Quiet Place. We talked about A Quiet Place before. It's the John Krasinski directed and starring film with him and Emily Blunt in it. It's a horror film. It's played at South by Southwest. That's the reason I'm going to talk about it, and it's gotten a really rave review so far. And the same goes for Ready Player One. Ready Player One has gotten sort of mixed reviews, but we're going to discuss it as well and kind of what my thoughts are and what I think about it. And what I think about it and those kind of things. Sorry, let me answer one chat here. Okay. Yeah, so we're going to talk about all those things. We're also going to talk about more about Children of Men. I'm sorry, I'm talking about PlayStation Network right now. PlayStation Network is messaging me about some issue I'm having, so they're trying to get it resolved. It took me forever to wait my spot in line, so that's where I'm at. We're also going to discuss Children of Men. So if you saw my review of Children of Men, that's a film that came out, was it 2006, I believe? Film directed by Alfonso Cuarón. It stars Clive Owen in it. It has Julianne Moore in it. It has a couple other actors in it. Michael Caine's in it. And we'll get into that. If you didn't watch the review, watch that. But we're going to discuss a little bit more of it tonight. And also Margot Robbie. We're going to discuss Margot Robbie. You're seeing her name on there because she has been cast in the new Quentin Tarantino movie called Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which is about a couple different actors or stuntman or crew or something like that struggling in Hollywood, and it kind of intersects into the Sharon Tate story and the Charlie Manson stuff, and then kind of go from there. So yeah, those are the things we're going to get into tonight. Sorry, that's why I should be done after this. Those are the things we're going to get into tonight. So let's go ahead and jump into it then. So first, Godfather 2. So Godfather 2 came out in the 70s. It is a film I think I actually enjoyed. If you've ever seen The Godfather, if you've ever seen any of them, a lot of people hold them in such high regard, and the fact that most people think that they are some of the best films ever created. I like them a lot. I really did like them a lot. I don't think they're among my favorites that I've ever seen, but they are among, the most respected for me. Like, I understand why people love them so much. I understand why people hold them in such high regard because of how artistic they are and how immersive it is and how groundbreaking and just, influential it was for the time. And that's why all the Godfather films, Godfather 3 I haven't seen yet, but I've heard a lot of people say it's not as good as the first two. The first two are kind of like on another level, considering some of the best films of all time. And the third one's just kind of like there, And it's funny because the third one was like 15 years later or something. It was like 1990 or something along those lines. And it was so much later. And that kind of makes sense to me. You know what I mean? It makes sense because a lot of times when they come back to a film sort of as like an afterthought, like a film that happens so much later that it doesn't necessarily feel like it's part of the same trilogy in a way, because they just kind of like, ham-fisted in there. That's when things kind of go awry and go wrong. And that makes sense. But specifically, let's talk about The Godfather 2. So The Godfather 2 is important to discuss because a lot of people consider Godfather 2 the best. Out of the two that I've watched, just said I've watched the first one and the second one, I like Godfather 2 the best. You guys have to let me know in the comments what you think about the two Godfather films. I like 2 a little bit more. I really loved both of them. I'd probably give them both like a 9 or 10, 9.5 out of 10. But I like 2 a little bit more. Maybe because Al Pacino's character in 2 like really hooked me. Like I loved Al Pacino in those films, but especially in the second one. Like Marlon Brando was great in the first Godfather. He's excellent in it. There's a lot of really good performances. Robert Duvall is really good in both films. But I was really impressed by Al Pacino in Godfather 2. That might be one of the best performances I've seen in a while. Yeah, right. One of the best, one of the best performances I've seen in a while. Sorry, PlayStation Network is being difficult. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. But yeah, basically Godfather 2. Yeah, I really was impressed with Al Pacino just because I feel like he felt like a real person to me, and that was something that is kind of rare for a lot of different performances, especially back then. Sometimes films can come across as kind of dated back then. A lot of people don't like to admit that, but when you're watching a film in 2018 that was made in like 1970, 1974 around there, it can be a little shocking just because it's just not quite, like you don't feel like it's necessarily meets the standards of 2018. That's not the case with Godfather. There's some great films that hold up really, really well, and Godfather 1 and 2 are two of them. So when you watch films from the 70s, you're not always going to feel like, this film is something I've really enjoyed in 2018. And another factor to consider is that both movies are like over 3 hours long. So that's just kind of, part of the process. Really, 3 hours long. I mean, it's definitely an investment of your time. The first one's like 3 hours 15, if I'm remembering correctly. The second one was like 3 hours and 20 minutes. So it's definitely an investment of your time. And that usually I watch them at the gym or like when I come back home, I'll finish the rest of it. I was really hooked a little bit more than I was with Godfather 1 and Godfather 2. Godfather 2, I just felt like the characters were a little bit more interesting. They were more developed. I felt like Michael Al Pacino's character was a little more interesting in the second one because he was way more flawed. And the fact that he sort of takes over the family business is sort of lets you know like what kind of person he becomes. And that's what's interesting about it to me. And that's Al Pacino's performance in that film. I was kind of stunned to see he did not win an Oscar for it, which is crazy because I feel like I saw Robert De Niro won an Oscar for Godfather 2, which he is excellent as well. But Al Pacino really stole the show for me in Godfather 2. And there were some great actors in those films. Francis Ford Coppola really knew what he was doing with directing these films. So bravo to him. But yeah, if you have a chance to watch The Godfathers, like I said, it really is an investment of your time. But they are on Netflix. So you don't have to pay anything for them. But if you have the time, I really recommend you watch both of them if you haven't already. So Cracked Up TV said, "Hey Will, what's up, dude? How's it been? How's it been going for you? I appreciate you hanging out tonight. It's always fun." But yeah, I always like having you guys to chat with. That's what kind of makes these fun, kind of bounce ideas back and forth off each other. That's what kind of makes it interesting and fun. So yeah, The Godfather 2 was just, I found it a little more exciting, a little more energetic than the first one, a little darker, which is kind of crazy because they're both pretty dark. They're pretty dark films, but it's very easy to get immersed into this Italian culture and this Italian world, this mafia world. It's so rich and so lively, and that's what's cool about it. That's what I really liked about both Godfather films. But Godfather 2, I think I liked a little bit more, but it's pretty close. Pretty close. So he said, Cracked Up TV said, "It's been good. You no complaints." Like I said, I'm a little bit sick, so I think you were the first one in here. So I'm a little bit sick. So I'm a little bit under the weather, but I'm surviving. So I have a lot going on. That's for sure. A lot of different class stuff. Always the YouTube stuff. Obviously, you guys know about that. But yeah, like a lot of different stuff going on. But it's been good. It's been good. So yeah, let's go ahead and transition then to Dewey Cox. So if you haven't seen the film Dewey Cox, let me look it up for you. Maybe I can show you something. So it's actually called Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox Story. So that's a film. If you like comedy, like I mentioned a lot of times, I compare everything to Airplane. And just because I love Airplane so much, Airplane, I think, is the best comedy film ever created, the funniest film ever created. And there's a reason for that, because it's just hilarious. And really, if you like Airplane, if you like comedies that are ridiculous and over the top and silly and just, like I always mention, harmlessly fun, then Dewey Cox is your movie. Dewey Cox is so funny, dude. That movie, I've watched that movie so many times. I've watched it a bunch of times, but it's on Netflix, like I said. And if you have a chance to go on Netflix and watch Dewey Cox, definitely watch Walk Hard, Dewey Cox Story, because, dude, it's absolutely hilarious from start to finish. There's so many quotable lines. Like I always mention, any great comedy film is very quotable, right? If it's very quotable, leaves you with a lot of lines a lot of jokes that you continually make to your friends, and a lot of references you make that it was a funny movie and a good movie. That's what Dewey Cox does. And it's just so many, cleverly written jokes, cleverly written lines. It's just a well-written story for the most part. It's very goofy, very silly, very self-aware. Like, a lot of films like Airplane are, they are those things because they're self-aware, and that's what kind of makes them funny, because they know kind of what they're mocking and they play to the strengths of that, and then just sort of build it up and sort of make fun of the content that they're actually bringing to you. And that's what's interesting about it. But yeah, Dewey Cox, it's a great movie. There's so many great lines, like, and you never once, and you never once paid for drugs, not once. For real, if you haven't watched the movie, that line will be hilarious too. Just wait. There's so many hilarious lines in the movie. It's like, Edith, I can't build you a candy house. It'll fall down. Like, dude, it's just so, it's so dumb, but it's so clever and fun. New Architecture says, "Sup, man? What's up, dude? How's it going? I'm glad you are here tonight to hang out. It's always fun when you're here, and also when Cracked Up TV is here as well. You guys are always lively, and like I said, bounce ideas back off of me, and that's what's kind of fun about it. Yeah, so we'll kind of see what happens. But yeah, it's always fun to do these kind of things. But yeah, Dewey Cox Walk Hard. Basically, let me give you a rundown of the story. So basically, it's a satirical kind of film. Makes fun of sort of musician, rags to riches type stories. He's a blues player who grows up sort of in a tough upbringing. His parents, one of his dad actually hates him for a certain reason. He becomes a blues star. He starts out as a janitor. He has to rise his way up, sort of like the typical kind of thing. He gets into drugs. He becomes a famous musician, that kind of deal. And it really just goes crazy after that. He starts writing songs about a bunch of different other things, and then kind of it just goes crazy out of proportion. But that's really what the movie kind of gets down to in the nitty-gritty of it. Bureaucratic TV said, "I just realized even though I did like Shape of Water, it's kind of a dark version of the movie Slash." I have not seen the movie Slash. You're going to have to explain that one to me. That's interesting, though, because Shape of Water, I don't know how dark I found it to be, but it's funny because one of my classmates in my class, in my newest class this semester, she said that she posted just randomly. It was like an introductory post, and she was like, "I don't get Shape of Water at all." And I'm like, I do movie reviews on YouTube, and I see a lot of movies, and I did not like Shape of Water at all. Like, Shape of Water was probably one of my least liked films of 2017, which is crazy. Crazy to think that a Best Picture winner could be on my most hated list of the year. I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't know. I've made my case for why I don't like Shape of Water. I'm thinking at some point it's going to be really disliked. But I'm thinking at some point I'm going to make a video essay about why I don't like Shape of Water, and I'll go into detail about it. And I'll take certain scenes to me that don't quite work, and I'll explain why. Usually I do video essays that you guys see about content I really love, about movies I really love, about shows I really love, or shows you never heard of, like Garth Marenghi's Dark Place, just to sort of explain to you why I love them so much and what's cool about them and interesting and special about them. But it's interesting because Shape of Water, the video essay for that would be quite the opposite. It would be quite the contrary. So that would be really interesting to do. And I do plan on doing that at some point in the near future, hopefully soon. But bad part is I kind of have to buy the Blu-ray or the digital copy to do it, which sucks because I really don't want to buy the movie because I don't like it very much. I don't really plan on watching it again. So that's quite a problem for sure. But yeah, so Cracker TV said Splash instead of Slash. Okay, Splash. Let me look that up. 1984, sorry, fantasy romance film. Interesting. I'll have to watch Splash. Maybe I'll like it more. Maybe it's funny to know that there's a darker version of Shape of Water out there. But yeah, sorry. I'm like I said, I'm a little bit sick and under the weather. So if I'm a little bit out of it, then I'm a little bit loopy. That's why. So that's kind of the deal. But yeah, Shape of Water was not a film that I necessarily loved. It just couldn't really get into it. But yeah, back on Dewey Cox. So Dewey Cox, John C. Reilly's in it. Jenna Fisher plays sort of his love interest. Kristen Wiig's in the movie. Tim Meadows, who is hilarious and does not get enough credit for being so good at comedy, is in it as well, and he's great. He's maybe my favorite character. It's just a really silly and fun story. If you haven't seen the film before, I really do highly recommend. If you're looking for a good laugh, a good time, then you need to go to Netflix and watch Dewey Cox Walk Hard, because it's so hilarious, dude. You're gonna love it. I'd be shocked if you didn't. Like I said, if you liked Airplane, I mentioned Garth Marenghi. If you guys went and watched that, if you like that, Dewey Cox is not quite as overt about how satirical it is. It's not quite as ridiculous and over the top. It's still pretty ridiculous and over the top, but it's not quite as obvious about it. It's not quite as direct about it. It sort of beats around the bush sometimes. It still is pretty obvious, I'd say, but in comparison to Airplane and Garth Marenghi, it's a little bit different. Garth Marenghi is like a so bad it's good, but so bad it's good on purpose. Dewey Cox is not that. It's just like a satirical genre type film about a musician. That's really what it is. But it's hilarious. It's so hilarious. And if you haven't watched it, I really do highly recommend it. Go and check it out. So next topic up then, A Quiet Place. So A Quiet Place. So I talked about A Quiet Place before. We talked about Hereditary as well, but we're going to talk about A Quiet Place for now. So A Quiet Place is a movie that's coming out. It's actually directed by John Krasinski. He's in the film. Emily Blunt, his wife, is in the film. So it's a married couple film made by this married couple. And it's supposedly got really great reactions. The reactions of it is played at South by Southwest right now. It's played at South by Southwest, and people seem to love it. The reactions have been fantastic for it. Let me check. The Rotten Tomatoes score on it, I think it had like 100%, I'm pretty sure. At 100%, it had an average rating of like 8.7 out of 10, something like that, which is crazy. And for a horror film, that's especially good. So I'm really excited to see just kind of what happens with it. But basically, the general plot is, I guess they don't really show you much in the trailer, but it's sort of like I don't know if it's post-apocalyptic. It has an 8.4 out of 10, 100% on the tomato meter, right? Pretty damn good, right? So basically, you got to be as quiet as possible. So it's this family living in the woods, and they got to be as quiet as possible because there's monsters that kind of hunt them based on sound, sort of like they do with the clickers in The Last of Us, sort of like, it's almost like having bats chasing you, but with creatures and monsters that are chasing you, right? So that's always interesting. And it's really just a standard run-of-the-mill horror film, I guess, in a sense. But supposedly, it's super tense, it's super intense, and it's super scary. And that's something that I really was looking forward to this film. I thought it maybe would end up like a 75%, like be pretty good, pretty solid horror film. But supposedly, it's amazing. And John Krasinski, I mean, if he's going to direct films like this, then definitely give us more of this. So I'm really excited. I know it's set to release in the summertime, so we'll kind of see how that works out. But generally speaking, I think that A Quiet Place has really good reactions right now, and I'm very excited for it. And you guys know I don't love horror, but I loved it because it's kind of more than a horror film, like I mentioned, and kind of go from there. But Noir Detective said, I read the Deadpool 2 had very bad reactions. Wow, really? I think I saw something about that, but I didn't look too much into it because with Deadpool 2, I kind of want to like know as little as possible. I don't really want to have my opinion swayed in any way. I'm wondering why it got bad reactions. I'm wondering what they did. Maybe you know what they kind of do a lot of times. Anytime there's a sequel, there's always that pressure to go bigger and bolder and funnier. Like I love Guardians 2, actually. I gave it a 9.5 out of 10. So obviously I love Guardians 2. But there is a tendency in Guardians 2 to try to be too funny, like crack jokes way too often, like a joke every 5 seconds, and it gets a little old and gets a little stale pretty quickly, right? But luckily, the second half of the film is so good that it kind of made up for it, and a lot of the jokes do land, but some of them don't. But it's sort of like joke overload, right? And I'm wondering if Deadpool kind of hit that here. We don't know. It's hard to say. But honestly, like with the success of the first one, obviously they're going to feel pressure to not only be more exciting, but to be more funny. Because the funny aspects, the comedy is really what's going to bring a lot of people in because it's different than a lot of superhero films. Like Marvel has some comedy, right? Not a lot. It has enough to get you by. Enough to, bring some lightheartedness to the story. But Deadpool is like a comedy film, right? A lot of like, slapstick kind of, I guess, to a sense, R-rated kind of raunchy comedy. And I'm wondering if either the jokes are poorly written or it's just too much, Too much humor can be a bad thing, and that can really be a problem, and we definitely don't want that. And it's still got to be exciting too, obviously. But I'm pretty sure one of the directors from John Wick 1 is directing the film, which is kind of crazy. And it maybe if the film is bad, I know there was kind of turmoil. Like, didn't they get rid of one of the directors early on or something like that? So maybe that's kind of what led it down a dark path, so to speak, or a bad path. But if it had some bad reactions, that's not good. That's not good. We'll see. I don't see a tomato score for it yet, probably because there's a review embargo for it. But I mean, we're going to find out in May. We're only 2 months away from it. So we're going to find out ourselves soon what we think about it. But I really like the first one a lot. I don't think I love the first one as much as everyone else does. I like it a lot. I think it's like an 8.5 out of 10 probably. I think it's like probably a Doctor Strange level film. That's what I find it to be. I don't find Deadpool to be like the best superhero film I've ever seen or anything like that. I've heard a lot of people say it is for them, and that's totally fine. I think it's a really good film, and I understand the logic because it's different. It's different than a lot of the superhero films, especially Marvel films we've seen to date. But generally speaking, yeah, I like Deadpool, but it's not among my favorite superhero films ever, if I had to say so. So we'll kind of see how that goes. But yeah, Quiet Place, directed by John Krasinski and Emily Blunt's in it. Supposedly the acting is really good and it's very tense, a lot of drama, very scary, and that's great. I mean, with the fact that What I'm kind of worried about, which is kind of weird, I'm kind of worried about how a lot of the film is probably going to be pretty silent. Like they're using sign language and kind of communicating, not speaking because they don't want to make any sound. I'm wondering if it's going to be so quiet in the theater that you're going to hear people talking more. You know what I mean? Because if you're in a movie that's like Infinity War or Star Wars where it's very loud and action-packed, you can it kind of drowns out the people whispering and talking to each other in the theater. But like a practical concern I have, you guys know how much I hate people talking in the theaters. I hate it so much. It's like one of my biggest pet peeves, maybe the biggest. And I'm afraid that this movie is going to be so quiet and so tense that people are just going to laugh and snicker and, just talk to each other, which I don't really want, obviously. So we'll see how that plays out. But I'm really excited for the film. And like I said, it has a 100% right now, an average rating of 8.4, which is outstanding. Especially for a horror film, that's just really, really great. So we'll kind of see how that ends up. So we'll go with that. Another one, Ready Player One. So Ready Player One, if you guys know about that film, it's based on a book, I think, from 2011. This film was directed by Steven Spielberg, who's coming back after he did BFG was his last film, right? So he's directing this Ready Player One film. If you saw the trailers, basically, it's sort of like I don't know if you would call it a dystopian future. It's sort of like a futuristic world where you can go into this game and there's all these different characters that you know and love, and you can kind of do a bunch of different things. So basically they go on this hunt for this egg, and it basically can get you rich or something. I don't know exactly, but the trailer's not completely clear. But supposedly the reactions to it at South by Southwest are ranging pretty variably across the board. So Ready Player One, yeah, it comes out sometime soon, actually, I believe. Sometime in wide release March 29th. That's very soon. That's like 2 weeks from now, right? That's like 2 weeks from now. Right now it has a 78%, an average rating of 6.4. Some people say that it's amazing, especially visually, which I didn't expect anything else. If you watch the trailer, you can look at the visuals and be like, this looks really cool, right? This looks like a video game. That's kind of what they're going for. But we'll kind of see how that plays out. Like I said, it's not one where I was like overly excited for it, but it is one where I'm, like kind of looking forward to it. You know what I mean? It's one of those films where you're like, oh yeah, that's coming up soon. But it's not one where I'm like counting the days, It's not one of those films. I mean, I haven't read the book. I'm not super connected to this story. I'm not super connected to Steven Spielberg. I think he's a good director, but I'm not super connected to his work necessarily. I've seen a lot of his films, obviously. But I don't think I'm like, a huge fanboy or anything like that. So yeah, Ready Player One has a lot of different reactions across the board. It's kind of difficult to say right now. I'm not going to read any of these reviews, but I'll just look real briefly. So a lot of people say that it has a lot of cultural references. It's visually dazzling. So I mean, that's kind of basically the realm we're talking about right now. So I mean, like I said, it's going to be polarizing. It's going to be a polarizing film. I can tell already. So we should prepare ourselves for that. So if you love Ready Player One or you hate Ready Player One just based on what you've seen so far, just prepare yourself because it's going to be polarizing. It's going to be interesting because of that. So we're going to see what happens. But like I said, I'm not super connected to the story. I'm not, I'm not super really invested obviously in what's going on in this film. So we'll kind of see how it plays out. I'm looking forward to it, but I'm not super, super ecstatic, super hopeful for it. So we'll kind of see what happens. So with that said, let's go ahead and jump to the next topic. So the next topic will be Children of Men. So Children of Men, you guys saw my review for this film. It came out in 2006, I believe, has Clive Owen in it. Directed by Alfonso Cuarón, which I didn't actually know until I started researching the film. And it was interesting because I'm trying to remember, the only other film I've seen of his is probably Gravity. And it's funny because everyone loved Gravity. Like Gravity was so cool to everybody. The visuals, the motion capture, I guess, of it, the CGI of it, I guess that's the word I'm looking for, the phrase I'm looking for. Gravity, people beloved that film, right? I could not get into Gravity. I really was kind of underwhelmed by it. And it's interesting because I started to notice a trend. I think I mentioned this before. So the three Mexican directors who have been winning on the Oscars lately, right? Alfonso Cuarón, Alejandro Inarritu, whose name, like I said, I'm not always sure if I'm pronouncing correctly. The other one is Guillermo del Toro, right? So those three directors, it's funny that I don't really like their films that much, which is kind of crazy. I like Children of Men, all right. I didn't love Children of Men, But generally speaking, yeah, I thought The Children of Men was pretty good. I wouldn't say that I loved it, but I thought it was pretty good. I enjoyed myself watching it. I think it's a solid film. A lot of people love it though, and I can really understand why, because some of the visuals of it are crazy, because there's like action scenes and they're so vivid and feel so real, despite the fact that they're not really anything that a lot of us have seen or experienced before, right? And that's what's interesting about it, because it felt so real and so vivid. Like this dystopian future felt like I was living in this dystopian future, which was crazy. And it was just something that was really remarkable to me. And I really found that very interesting, very compelling. I found the performances to be pretty good. I didn't necessarily feel like there was a groundbreaking performance. I felt like everyone was solid. Everyone was good. No one's bad in the film. I don't think I would put it in my top 10 request list, spoiler alert, so it's not going to be in the top 10, but I thought it was pretty good. I thought it was a good request, a good film, and I can see why people like it a little more than I do. I think it's a pretty solid film. Like I said, there's so many aspects to it that really start immersing you into it. Like I said, the dystopian future aspect, how brutal the world is, but there are some dated aspects to it. There's some humor in it that doesn't quite work for me. Michael Caine's character especially does some humorous things that didn't work for me. It just felt out of left field and out of place for the film. And I get kind of why they're there, considering the movie was in 2006 and considering the fact that it's so dark, they tried to add some sort of light to it. So I don't know. It's tough to say. But the movie was pretty solid. I just said A Quiet Place kind of reminds me of The Tribe. It's a movie that is all in sign language. Oh, that's cool. I wonder if they were influenced by that film at all then. Like I mentioned, that's a practical concern for me. I'm wondering if the film is going to be mostly in sign language and them not talking to each other. Because if so, people in the theater are going to be really obnoxious. And I can tell. Because anytime you have people in the theater that are talking and are chatting with each other, it just really upsets me. It really pisses me off. And I sometimes, I will a lot of times talk to people and say like, hey, can you please stop? Like you'd be nice about it at first, but if they keep doing it, then you kind of have to be a little more stern about it. But generally speaking, yeah, some people in the theater really upset me. So I just said Alfonso Cuarón did also did one of my favorite Harry Potter films. That's so cool, dude. With Harry Potter, it's another interesting topic because I've never loved the Harry Potter films. You know what I loved? I loved the last one. I thought the last one was great. What's interesting about Harry Potter, we'll have to talk about this in more depth. What's interesting about Harry Potter is everyone loves it. I never read the books, right? I'm not a big book reader. I've never read the books. I don't know. I saw all the movies, obviously, but I never read the books. So I like Harry Potter, but I just think it's not for me. The problem that I have with it, and I think it's just my approach to the films, is I feel like there's a lot of building up and hype with not much payoff, right? So the whole movie, a lot of the premise is about Harry and Voldemort, right? Voldemort's sort of the big bad that's talked about and brought up a lot, and he doesn't really show up until the last couple films, right? And a lot of the conflicts that I felt in the previous films didn't really quite wow me enough. I don't think there was enough action for me or excitement to really invest me in those films. The characters were good. I liked the big three and Ron, Hermione, and Harry. They're good characters. I like them as characters. I didn't feel super invested in them. I think the world is vivid, obviously. It's very creative and very vivid. But there's something about the story that just never got me emotionally invested. It wasn't enough action, wasn't exciting. There wasn't enough magic and dueling to really hook me that much. I like Sirius Black. He was really cool. I like Dumbledore. He was really cool. I really like the duel between Dumbledore and Voldemort, and I can't remember which film it is. It's one of the later films. I really enjoyed that. But generally speaking, yeah, I didn't love the films, but I do I do respect them. But I get a lot of crap from friends who really love Harry Potter, and I'm like, Harry Potter's kind of overrated to me. I don't love Harry Potter. But a lot of people do love Harry Potter, and I'm totally okay with that because I'm obviously in the minority with it. Right, so I just think it's not for me. It's not for me, honestly. Like, I like the films. I think they're all remarkably okay, right? Except the last one, which is really good. I think they're all okay because the last one gives me that payoff I always wanted. I feel like there's not enough payoff for the moments and the main conflict that I really wanted. And that was my main problem with the series. Yeah, but I like them overall. I don't think they're bad movies. I don't think they're bad movies. I think they're all right movies, except the last one was really good. So, okay, so yeah, Children of Men is a movie I would recommend you watch. If you watch my review, you'll know basically what I talked about. It's like a dystopian future where there's human infertility, women can't get pregnant anymore, so it kind of drives society into a mad frenzy, violent anarchy. That's kind of what it is. So if that's up your alley, then I think the film could be for you. There's a lot to think about in it, that's for sure. There's a lot that I took away from it, thinking like, wow, humanity's pretty rough when you strip us all down, when you strip us of responsibility. And like I mentioned, the responsibility of even like the humanity the kids offer, like the light and the happiness the kids offer that adults, you sort of get more skeptical, you get more cynical as you grow older, right? And kids sort of bring that light into your life. That's why a lot of people have kids. And when you take that all away, we just become cynical, violent anarchists, I guess you could say that. That's one read on it. So it's possible. So the final thing I want to discuss here is Margot Robbie. So Margot Robbie is a great actress. She was my pick I picked her to win my award for Best Lead Actor. She wasn't my prediction to win Best Lead Actor at the Oscars because I knew she wasn't going to win. I knew Frances McDormand was going to win, and she did. And I guess it's well-deserved. Frances McDormand would have been my second pick, right? But Margot Robbie's a great actress, but I bring her name up because she has been cast in the new Quentin Tarantino film called Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which I believe she plays Sharon Tate. If not, I'm not sure. The film basically revolves around the Sharon Tate murder and the Charlie Manson stuff. I'm not sure how it's all going to connect. It's a Tarantino film, so I'm not sure how humorous or funny and violent. It's going to be violent, obviously, but I'm not sure how humorous and stuff it's going to be. But Margot Robbie's been cast in this film. The reason I bring her up is because the film also has Leonardo DiCaprio, and it also has Brad Pitt too. Right? So this cast is already pretty damn good, right? You have Leo, Brad Pitt, and Margot Robbie, right? The film is pretty loaded already. I mean, you could have no names for the rest of the actors and you probably have a really good film, just those three. I think the film is primarily going to follow Brad Pitt and Leo, which is going to be sick because I don't think we've ever seen them on screen together, which is going to be crazy, and I'm really excited for that. And generally, I'm a fan of Tarantino's films. I think this one will be interesting because there's a lot of backstory, a lot of history to be discussed here. I'm not sure, like I said, how much they're going to get into the Manson stuff. I know Sharon Tate is going to be a key figure in this film, a key player in this film, so that's really going to be what the film kind of gravitates to. But there's obviously going to have those two, Brad Pitt and Leo story. I think they're friends. They're like aspiring actors and a stunt worker or something. And that's kind of what the film's going to revolve around. So generally speaking, yeah, I'm pretty excited for it. I love Tarantino's films. My favorite would probably be Django, but you guys have to let me know your favorite in the comments. Because, yeah, generally speaking, Django would be my favorite. There's a lot of Pulp Fiction's good. Kill Bill is good, both of them. Reservoir Dogs, been a while since I've seen it, but I would say Hateful Eight was really good too. I would say Django's my favorite. Sorry, I'm losing my chain of thought there. Django's my favorite for sure. So you guys have to let me know your favorite, but maybe this one will be my new favorite, considering you have Leo and and Brad Pitt in the same film. But Inglourious Basterds was pretty solid as well. Didn't quite love that one as much as Django, but I still liked it overall. So that's basically the topics we had to discuss. So this stream will probably be a little bit quicker because we're running out of time here. Because I actually have to get to the gym to work my fat self out before the time runs out and the gym closes. But if you guys have any questions for me, let me know. We can discuss anything else you guys want to discuss. Off topic, movies, anything. Friendships, girlfriends, boyfriends, anything you want to discuss. We can discuss those kind of things. We always discuss male pattern baldness, which is fun. But yeah. Also, if you have a PlayStation, don't ever buy a game digitally because then you can't return it, which is really pain. Like I bought a game that's not working properly and they won't allow me to return it. So that's where we're at. So yeah, don't buy a game on PlayStation Network or PlayStation Live digitally that you are not quite sure about because if it doesn't work, then you're pretty much screwed. So that's where I'm at. That's why I was talking to PlayStation earlier. So real pain in the ass, honestly. So we'll kind of see what happens. But yeah, if you guys have any questions for me, let me know before we wrap things up. We'll try to do another 5 minutes or so. So if you have any, tough questions or, really interesting questions or anything you'd like to discuss, let me know so we can kind of interact and get that going. But yeah, these live streams are always fun. Like I said, there's only 3 of you guys here now, but it's so much fun just to hang out and just talk about stuff. It's really just an extra ability to talk about stuff and those kind of things. So it's funny because I'm thinking about maybe if you guys would be into this, let me know. I'm thinking about creating a Facebook group where we can post and interact with each other. I might put it on the Patreon site. Maybe it'd only be like $1 a month to join it. And then you can kind of post and do whatever you kind of want on there, as long as it talks about movies and TV shows and news and that kind of stuff. And we can interact that way. But I'm thinking about doing that. Yeah, I have one patron currently, but I'm thinking about maybe, putting on the dollar thing where we can, sort of go from there and make a community, whatever, and interact with each other. And I'm just realizing now the stream is kind of buffering a lot. I'm not really sure why that is. It's being super weird tonight. My internet connection's fine, so I really don't know. Tough to say. So, like I said, if you guys have any final question for me, let me know. But other than that, I covered everything a little bit quicker this time, so sorry for that. I know we all like to hang out, but I covered everything pretty quickly. So, yeah, let me know if you guys have any final question for me, and then we'll kind of go from there. But other than that, yeah, PlayStation is a real pain sometimes. So that's why it can really be a pain, just because when you're buying stuff, like I said, I always like to have a hard copy of a game, but I bought this game because it was cheaper on PlayStation. And that's, really just says, so Ghetto New York City, NYC said, I wanted to ask how am I this good in speaking? I think you mean, for me, it's always a bit struggling. So, well, thank you, first off, for saying that I'm good at speaking. I appreciate it. Well, part of it is because I have a lot of practice at it. Really, it's practice makes perfect. That's really what it is. If you're struggling at it, then I think a lot of times really just you have to throw yourself into new situations, throw yourself into situations where you're going to feel uncomfortable. And when you arise from it, you'll be stronger because of it. I know that sounds cliche, but it is true. I teach communications classes, right? I teach communication classes at 2 different campuses now, or I will be in the summertime. I've been teaching at the same campus for 3 years. I'll be teaching at a second one in the summer, right? So I teach communications, and a lot of it's about public speaking. I present every single class about how to, teach about communication stuff. I give my own presentations. I do those kind of things. I've always kind of done it, but I've really learned just by doing and learning how to speak to other people. So really the key is to really just grab people's attention early and often and just remain confident. So even when I'm not confident, you still have to retain that confidence. Like I always tell my students, fake it till you make it. Fake it till you make it, because no one, like if you mess up or you slip up or make an error, no one's going to know. And no one's going to care besides you, right? If you don't let anyone know about it, then you're golden, right? No one's going to care. And they want you to succeed as bad as you want to succeed, right? So really just have that confidence. Don't be arrogant, but be confident and don't show any signs of insecurity whatsoever. Just be confident, you are who you are, you speak how you speak, and that's it. They're just going to have to deal with it. And, be really, people like other people who are confident in themselves. That's what they like, and that's really what appeals to people. That's really the best advice I can give, other than to just brush yourself up on nonverbal communication is a big aspect of it. Like, so basically, what you're communicating when that's not through speech. So like your facial expressions, whether you're smiling a lot, your body language. A lot of people say I move my shoulders a lot. That's just because how the shots are framed. But really just how natural your movements are, whether you feel conversational. The biggest thing is being conversational, because if you feel too scripted or too uptight or too nervous, then people are going to know, right? And it's not going to feel comfortable to have that conversation with people. But a lot of times just with having conversations, or speaking, whether you're asking about speaking on camera for YouTube or whatever else, really just, like I said, be yourself and try to tell people something interesting that you have to offer, right? That's really how it is with a conversation, with a relationship, dating, YouTube, anything, all that stuff. And that's really the gist of it, honestly. Just like I said, throw yourself into it and practice by doing, because that's the only way you're going to get better at it. If you shy away from those kind of things, which I'm not saying you're doing, but if you do those things, then it's not going to help you, right? Because you're not going to be able to overcome that adversity and overcome those obstacles. So that's my approach on it. So hopefully that's helpful. Hopefully it's not too much like technical jargon, but I tried to be helpful. But if you guys, one more final question, then I'll let you guys go out of here. But yeah, one more question, then we'll kind of wrap things up. So movie, anything related, whatever you guys think, and we'll discuss it. One more question, and then we'll end it up. So whoever sends this question out, hopefully it's a good one. But one thing I am planning on doing, I'll just let you guys know, when I think we're at like 64 requests, like I mentioned, when I get to 75 requests, I'm going to do a top 10 request video. So top 10 films that have been requested to me by you guys. And I'm thinking about doing something for the #1 winner. I just don't know what yet. If you guys have any suggestions, please let me know. I thought about sending a Blu-ray copy of the film you recommended to me to you, but I assumed if you recommended the film, you really like it, and you probably already have it on Blu-ray. But if you don't, then I will send it to you. For the #1 request, that is. Not for everyone in the top 10, but for the #1. Because that would be super expensive. But just for the first one. But yeah, so if you guys have one final question for me, let me know, and then we'll kind of wrap things up. I know I'm saying that a lot, but I'd like to answer as many questions. I like to give people as many opportunities to ask questions as they want. So that's always fun. Like I said, the interaction is the best part. I answer all the comments because I like interacting with you guys. It's fun. It's fun talking about movies. It's fun, hearing your feedback, answering questions, just interacting about films. That's what I like, talking about our different takes on movies. That's really the best part. So yeah, it's fun. It's fun to do, and that's why I enjoy it. So, but like I said, I'm ramping up. I got so much going on right now. So this week will probably only be 2 videos, probably 2. Sometimes it's 3 or 4. Really just depends on the week, but probably 2 this week. I think the next video I'm going to do is a request. I'm not going to tell you guys yet because I don't want to spoil it, but there's another request coming up. And Thursday, I forget what comes out on Thursday. Something comes out on Thursday that I'm going to see Thursday night, and I'll review it on Friday. So let me check on that, actually. Yeah, let me check on that. But basically, yeah, like there's a film that comes out Thursday night. I always review films. I see films on Thursday night, and I'll send it to you. I'll review it on Friday. Tomb Raider, that's what it is. Also, Love, Simon comes out. So I'm not sure which I'm going to see. I'm probably going to see Tomb Raider, but I would like to see Love, Simon because I've heard good things. And then Ghetto Noir said, thank you for the advice. No problem, dude. If you ever need advice on anything else, let me know, and I'll try to help as much as I can. I try to be helpful. I try to help as much as I can. But if you have any other questions, yeah, let me know. But other than that, I'll see you guys next time, and we'll discuss. If you have any other topics you'd like to see me discuss for Sunday, I should be able to stream Sunday like I usually do this time. So let me know, and then we'll kind of discuss things from there. But other than that, I appreciate you guys hanging out, and I'll see you next time.